Everyone, it's Desiree, and I am here with Scrappy Tail Crafts, and we are doing a hop. Hop, hop, hop. Yep. So you want to make sure that you leave your comments. Make sure you go to the Instagram. That's where the hop is going. And make sure you get inspired by so many other wonderful creators with this. This is the new card kit, and this is part of the mini fall release that Sabrina had. I'll be showing another card, a pop-up from the fall side. But this is the Nevermore card kit. So if we think we couldn't get enough when it came to her Horror Classics launch that she did a few weeks ago, this just adds right to it. So part of the kit is this layering stencil with all of these skulls. You get this die with creepy hands holding a book 2 different ways. And of course, you get all of those wonderful layering pieces. So you can either have it coming from behind or holding it up like it's a pedestal for somebody. Also in this kit, you're going to get the Nevermore stamp set. No, there are not coordinating dies with this, but just love the images. You've got Edgar Allan Poe, you've got this crow, some books with bottles, candelabra, the typewriter, and a layering skull. You can tell she likes skulls. They're really cool though. And then of course the 6 by 8.5 double-sided paper pad. With this paper pad you get 24 sheets. There are 12 different designs and you get 4 of each of the designs. So lots to choose from. I love the fact that her paper pad pulls in the die images. So some of these images, if you saw when I did the haul or the review or flip through, whatever you want to call that, of the Horror Classic collection, you'll see some of those images in there. You'll also get 2 embellishment packs. One is just of black gems. Can never have enough of those. It's like that little black dress. And then another one filled with gold and copper, pearls, and gems, all different sizes. So I'm actually going to do a 7 card. I'm going to do 7 cards from this one kit. I have not done one of these in so long, and I have to tell you, I miss it. Yeah, this was fun. So in the beginning here, what I'm going to show you is how I'm inking up the stencil, how I'm getting those layers. I'm also going to show you the stamping of the images, and then I'm going to color the images. And I'm going to show all of that, of course, sped up. I'm not going to talk all the way through it, but I'm actually going to pull out my alcohol markers. Want to keep on practicing with those. I love the look that they get. So I thought this was a perfect time. So here I'm starting out with the stencil, and I'm using some warm grays to layer this stencil. I think this stencil is great. It's very versatile. You can create a background, and a background for any size card. So if you're a 5 by 7, if you are a standard A2 size, this stencil is perfect. You will get those images for your card panel. I'm going to do something just a little bit different with this, and I'm actually going to use this, you'll see in a future card, as die cuts. Why not, right? Why not? I am not sure why I was having so many problems lining up this stencil. You know, just line it up. I'm not quite sure what I was doing, but yeah, that's just me. It's not the stencil. That was operator error that you just saw. Yes. So again, with the warm grays going through the stencil, we're now adding that final image. These are the same colors that I will use when it comes to stamping that layered skull as well. I think these colors are just perfect for this image. So those are all of our skulls. We've got them to the left, to the right, Small, large, straight on. They're awesome. So let's stamp some of the images. And this, what I'm showing you here, is how I work or worked when I used to do either the 10 cards one kit or the 5 card one kit from the beginning. I always set the cards up to do all of the ephemera or the coloring or the die cutting first, so that I would just have this pile of ephemera, and that's what I'll call it. If you remember when Spellbinders had their card kit, I did the same thing. Now with Spellbinders, they already had the die cuts. What's great with a kit, when you have a stamp set like this one here, you can stamp your image any way that you want. You can stamp it in black, you can stamp it in brown, you can use your colored pencils, alcohol markers, watercolors, any of your favorite coloring mediums that you would want to use. Now you have that option. And you're creating your own ephemera for those pieces. And that's what's great about a kit. The other thing that I always say that's wonderful about a kit is everything will match. You do not have to stress or worry, is this going to match together? Now, I am a firm believer that any piece of paper will go with any piece of paper. It all depends on how you're using it, how it's cut, and of course for me, I pull in the vintage photo. And for me, that makes everything come together as well. But again, the color of the rainbow, they're all together. They're in a circle. They're all there. We're not mixing the colors. We're not taking a red piece of cardstock and a green piece of cardstock and mixing them to get what we refer to as mud, meaning a brown tone. All colors will go together. But a kit helps you with that. A kit helps you to pull all of these ideas together, and it's your imagination that can bring these cards to life. That's the beauty of a kit. I've stamped out some images, and the ink that I use, back to the card, the ink that I use is Ink on 3 Blackout. I love this ink when I'm using my alcohol markers. I also do love Memento. That, you know, tried and true, has been around forever, and it is still a great ink for your alcohol markers. I do always suggest that no matter when you're using an alcohol-friendly ink, after you stamp your images, you should always give it time to dry. It's ink. It needs time to soak into the paper. It needs time to dry. And then you will be free to use it with your alcohol markers, and it won't smudge. No ink is going to dry instantaneously. And again, that's my opinion. Absolutely my opinion. You can see here, back to the cards, you can see here I'm stamping the base of the skull, again, using those same colors that I used when we did the stencil, the warm grays. And of course, my printer is going to start up. So I apologize for that background noise that you are going to hear that I'm hoping will stop soon. So I had to stop. It did not stop soon enough for me. Okay. I'm now coming in with the second layer. Now, because these stamps are photopolymer, it's very easy to line these stamps up. When it comes to the two small pieces, the crack in the back of the skull and also the eye socket to the front, you can use, I chose to use my stamp positioner, but this layering is perfect for acrylic blocks as well. So again, use what you have. Once I have these lined up, what the stamp positioner provides is I can just keep turning my piece of cardstock, and that image is going to go in the same exact spot every time. And then it just speeds up the process just a little bit. Now that we have all of our pieces stamped, we are going to start moving on to our alcohol markers. Now, I had already chosen my colors, but here are the images. Some of the images, yes, I double stamped. I knew I was going to use that Raven just a couple times. Was not sure about the typewriter, but just loved the look of the typewriter. The alcohol markers that I'm using today are by Altenew. I really do enjoy the color selections that they have. I love the fact that they are refillable and that the nibs can be replaced as well. They have both a bullet tip and a brush tip. And for all of these, I do use the brush tip for these images. I like to use one color and kind of go across. Again, production style is kind of where my mind goes when it comes to when I'm creating one of these kits. You know, get all the die cutting done, get all the coloring done, get one color done, and then move on to the next. But just remember, with alcohol markers, the way that they will blend easier and better is when the ink is still wet. That's what makes the alcohol markers blend. The paper that I enjoy using when I'm working with my alcohol markers is Neenah Solar White 80 pound. That is the only thing that I use Neenah White Solar for, is when I do alcohol marker coloring. I think it gives great results. But again, use what you have. So I'm just going to go through and I'm going to add my colors here and there, just get the blends going, get them moving. And when we come back, we are going to start with card 1. So you can sit back and enjoy the coloring. That was a lot of coloring. And I was not going to have you watch me do the fussy cutting. Nope. But I did. I got them all fuzzy cut and they're off to the side. Once I had all of that done, they were layered up. Meaning the cards were put together. The papers were chosen, the size of the card was chosen, and the piles were made. And here's where we're at now. I am a firm believer that pattern paper does the work for you. You will get an absolutely gorgeous card by just letting the pattern paper do the work for you. Now you'll see here I'm struggling with the gem. I chose the wrong size. I'm just playing with the size. Yes, I put the glue down, then put the gem on to see if it works. Absolutely. We don't do that with just the gem first. No, because we have to have fun with this. Yep, that's what we do. I finally choose the gem that I'm going to use for the raven. Crafting has to be fun, right? So here with this image, the work is done. The focal point has been created. The background is set. I put it on a piece of craft cardstock with a little bit of vintage photo just to frame it. I'm using one of the smaller sentiments that says the raven. Once upon a midnight dreary, while I pondered, weak and weary. I love Edgar Allan Poe. Huge fan. Always a huge fan. And I'm going to put that onto a black strip. I'm going to rip the bottom off because ripping paper is very therapeutic, I feel. I'm going to use some double-sided foam squares, and I'm going to prop this up. And I'm just going to have this coming down the one side of the card, opposite of the raven. We don't always have to use a sentiment that says something, meaning happy birthday, congratulations, hello. It can be a quote. Remember, we make cards so that we can send a note to somebody. So what we write inside the card is the beautiful sentiment that the recipient will receive. That is how I look at cards. It gives us a way to express our friendship or love or care to somebody. Our next card is an A2 size. And for this one, I used a piece of the pattern paper. I matted it onto some black cardstock. Now this is a standard A2 size, so 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. This will be a top folding. I took a piece of scrap black paper, ripped it in half because I like that edge going on down at the bottom. I took the books and the bottles, and I'm going to set them up so that black cardstock is kind of acting like a shelf, maybe, or a cloth, the way that it's sitting there. Once I have my double-sided foam tape on the back of this image, I'm going to get that set onto our card base. We're also going to be placing a raven, the chandelier, and the poison bottle. I'm going to take the poison bottle and I'm going to lay that onto its side as if it fell over. The raven's going to sit on top of the other bottle. And then I'll have the chandelier or candelabra off to the left-hand side of the books. So just a little bit of an arrangement that's going to go across our card. Now, the candles are not going to be propped up, so I'm able to tuck them in just slightly in behind the books. And then the raven, the top part of him was propped up to be even with the bottle that he has landed on. I'm going to choose one of the very small gems for the raven's eye. For the sentiment, I'm choosing potions, curses, and spells. And we're going to stamp that onto a piece of black scrap paper. I'm going to use my anti-static tool. I'm going to stamp that in clear ink and use my white embossing powder. And then we will heat set that. And then once that's heat set and cool, I'm going to tear that down. I do come in with a microfiber cloth just to wipe away the excess powder, anti-static powder. Again, ripping that paper, I do really find it's therapeutic. But I do just like the look. Just by ripping your paper, you are going to get a textured look to your card. So texture doesn't have to mean layers, embossing. It can just simply be tearing your paper and you're getting that look and feel of texture. I added some double-sided foam squares cut in half to the back of this sentiment. We're just going to set that down on the bottom. And I'm going to choose the dark brown pearls. I'm going to find 2 of those and put those on each side to resemble brads. If you have brads, they'd be perfect on this as well. I'm going to trim off the excess from the sides of the card, and that is card number 2. For card number 3, we are pulling in layers and that typewriter. The colors that I did choose when it came to my alcohol markers were very muted. Warm grays, blacks, and, you know, a rose, you know, like a mauve red, and that type of, like a Wedgwood blue. Very muted, very heather. I have a piece of craft cardstock that I cut, and I put that onto a black base. I cut a panel from the paper pad with the ravens and also matting that onto black cardstock. This is going to be a 5x7 card. That panel is going to go off to the side, meaning it's not going to be directly on. We're going to tilt it. And I'm going to use some fun foam to prop this up. And I'll use my double-sided film tape to adhere that to this mat. This is wonderful tape. I get it from Uline, which is a shipping company here in the States. It's very strong, so it's very unforgiving, meaning once it touches paper, yes, it's there. No going back. So now that I have that panel set, I'm going to get the typewriter propped up and also the raven as well. Will actually sit on that little tiny corner of the paper coming out of the typewriter that's folded over. So to make it look like he's folded that piece of paper over on itself. We'll also prop the top of the raven up as well and get him set into place. Of course, we're going to add some of our gems. I went with some of the copper gemstones and then also a pearl down on the bottom and a pearl on the typewriter to make it look like it was a button. Card number 4 is going to pull in the skulls that we stamped. I'm going to start out, again, this is a 5x7 card. We're going to start out with a black mat, and I took a strip of pattern paper and placed that to the right with a slight border. And those skulls that I stamped, the layering skulls, I fussy cut, and we're going to place 3 of those along that break of the black cardstock and the pattern paper. And we're just going to set them so that they're straddling that line. I set the one not in the center. I brought that down just a little bit. I wanted room for our sentiment. The sentiment that I chose is "This is Halloween, everyone scream." We're going to stamp this onto a piece of scrap craft cardstock, and I'm going to use my white embossing powder once again. Once that cools, I'll use the microfiber cloth, and we're going to rip again. And again, just ripping around this piece to add that little bit of texture. And we will also prop this up using some double-sided foam squares. But first, I am going to come in with a very heavy hand of vintage photo, really letting that ink sink into the sides of the paper. Removing the release paper, we will set that in place, and grabbing the black gems and doing the same thing, putting those in the four corners to make them look like rivets or brads. So kind of giving that hint maybe of a metal look when it comes to the card. For card number 5, we are going to use one of the dies, and the die that I chose is where the hands are coming in from behind the book. Now, you can see the colors that I used. Again, we're going to work on a 5x7. I'm going to put down a craft mat first, and I took one of the pieces of pattern paper with the two hands coming in from the bottom and the top, and I just cut sections of that. So I have that, a piece of it sitting somewhere. But I wanted the hand to be in the top right corner and the bottom left. So we're just going to give that illusion. For the top layer of the main part of the die, I'm going to put 2 sentiments or 2 phrases. On the left-hand side, it's going to say curses, fortunes cast, and spell work spun. The witching hour has begun. And then on the other side, it's going to say love spell, toad heart, bat wing, bone broth. I die cut this piece 3 times. Again, making that chipboard style piece. The more layers of cardstock we have, the thicker it will be. Yes, I did stamp this with clear ink and then my white embossing powder. You will be able to see these words. We're going to start layering our piece. I want to get the main part together first. So adding glue to the back and then just layering these up. I then die cut the book cover from red, and I did that twice. Before I put the book cover on, I want to very heavily, huge heavy hand here with vintage photo, to go over this book. I want these pages to look very aged. You can see that when I go over what I heat emboss, you're starting to see the words at that point. We will see them more in a moment. Now, not only did I use the vintage photo, I did go around the very edge of the book with scorched timber. Here I'm putting in the book cover. So this piece here, that's what that piece is creating, is the book cover that surrounds it. And again, I'm going to go heavy-handed to make sure I hit that with the vintage photo. The hands are going to come in next, and I used a gray, a very pale gray. I think this was a scrap of fog, I believe. And I'm going to get those set in place. Now, because I have the 2 layers of the red cover from the book, the hands are able to be curved. So I made sure to kind of curve those hands over that. to give the illusion that it's 3D. I'm going to use this little bit of fun foam that's left. I'm going to cut that down and again use my 2-inch film tape to get that secured down onto our panel. I'm going to remove the release paper and get that set. I'm placing it over the opening of where the two pieces of pattern paper are. So it looks like this is coming out through that. That's kind of what I was kind of sort of going for. A little bit. A raven is going to sit on top of the book on the curses side. So that's the left side that you're looking at. And then that'll make the raven even with the book with the double-sided foam tape, adding a small gem for the raven's eye. For card number 6, we're going to create a window and have Edgar Allan Poe bust come out of that. So I took a piece of the pattern paper and I cut a center piece out using one of my dies in my stash. I then took some black cardstock and set that in place behind. I have taken this image of Edgar Allan Poe and I've doubled the double-sided foam circles. And these are very thick on their own, but I really wanted him to have a lot of dimension and just coming up through that section. Down below, I'm taking a piece of craft cardstock that I have in my stash, and we are going to heat emboss this with clear ink and then white embossing powder again. Making sure that's covered well with the clear ink, and then I'm going to make sure that I apply even pressure. And then make sure everything's covered with the powder. And then we will get that heat set. The sentiment that I chose is Nevermore. Once I know that's cooled down, I'll come in with my cloth again, remove all the excess white powder. And now what we're going to do is we're going to curve this sentiment. Again, we're working on a 5x7 card. I like real estate. I like to have a lot of room to work with and to show off the pattern paper. So again, heavy-handed with the vintage photo, and we will come in with just a little bit along the edge of the scorched timber. It just makes it look very aged, and even sometimes it makes it look as if it was burnt. I'm taking my paper creaser and I'm curving. I'm going along the back to curve the paper, get those fibers bent. On the two edges, I kept those areas flat. In the center, I'm going to continuously add double-sided foam squares. Now, you could use scrap pieces of cardstock. You could use fun foam, you know, whatever you may have, you can use. You don't have to put something underneath this. If this is a card, though, that I do put in the mail, I do want to make sure that it holds that shape. So that's why I just put the double-sided foam squares behind it. Yes, there is a lot of dimension on this card, so it will add postage for when you mail your cards. Again, I'm going to add the pearls, the dark brown pearls, to each of the corner of the Nevermore sentiment. Here is our last and final card. Again, I'm taking a piece of the pattern paper. I chose the bats for this one. I thought they were cute. Onto some black cardstock, and we're going to get this adhered to our 5x7 card base as well. Here is our panel that we colored using the layered stencil. I am going to fussy cut these skulls out. Could have used them as a background. We have more ephemera from this stencil because of the way that it was designed. So I'm going to real quick fussy cut these out and just get some different shapes. We're going to add to the background along with the bats. We already have this design going on back there. So it's a bat with dark brown branches coming in from behind. In the areas that are open, I'm going to put one of these skulls. We're going to set that in place. And we're going to prop those up using double-sided foam squares. So we're going to get this dimension. I didn't want to go too dense with the skulls because I didn't want to lose the bats. I think the bats are absolutely adorable. And I didn't want them hidden by the skulls. So I made sure to cut some of the, or fussy cut some of the smaller ones as well. And then again, once I have those done, we'll be able to get our card panel together. I think I fussy cut 3 more. And as I'm cutting these, I'm just making sure of the placement, because that's going to tell me, okay, do I need one of the smaller ones? Do I need one of the larger ones? So I'm able to fill in with those smaller ones without losing the complete design. So look at your stencils are wonderful. They are at a great price point. They provide great backgrounds, but they can also provide focal points or fussy cuts, ephemera, however you want, whatever you want to call them. You can actually get that from those as well. And again, we have scissors. I am not a fan of fussy cutting, but I will. I mean, by all means, we have scissors. We can cut things, very much so. So now I'm just getting them set in place. Some of them are going to be straight on. Some of them are going to be on an angle. You know, just have fun with it, with the placement. What you're doing is adding to your background. And you can get something that looks really cool. A very neat effect by using the 2 images. So again, we're just going to get one more. Now this one, I did not choose to put a sentiment on. I didn't want to cover up any of those skulls. I just think they are just so awesome. I did add some pearls and gems from the copper and gold and pearl packet. I think they're gray. Just to add a little bit of interest to them, because I thought it was fun. You know, Halloween should have some sparkle too. And those were the 7 cards that I created featuring Sabrina's Scrappy Tails Designs Nevermore card kit. I absolutely enjoyed taking a card kit and saying, okay, let's create some cards with it. Again, pattern paper in itself is a wonderful medium, an absolute wonderful medium. We can do so much with it. It's endless with what we can do. with this medium. But pattern paper and all of the other elements, they can do the work for you. We have beautiful backdrops for the cards, and we don't need many pieces of focal point or ephemera to add to the front of the cards. So I really enjoyed these. I had a lot of fun. Her vision of Halloween, yes, is creepy and eerie, but I do enjoy that. I don't like horror films. No. There's only one that I watch every year, and it's around Halloween. And yes, it's Halloween, but I don't watch it. I watch it on AMC. But I hope you all enjoyed this video, how I break down a card kit, you know, how I look at it, how things, you know, come together, and how I process through it, basically, you know, when it comes to a card kit. I work very much in production style, putting all of these together. But I had a lot of fun. Again, I hope you enjoyed it. I will link down to the card kit down below if you wanted to check that out, or if you possibly missed her horror collection that came out, the classic horrors. I will link to that down there too if you want to check them out. But again, look at the techniques that were used and have fun, and be creative with your stash. Just make sure that you have fun with the process. Enjoy the art that you're creating. I'd love for you to subscribe. Make sure you hit that thumbs up, and make sure you ring the bell so that you know when the next video is ready for you to enjoy. Thank you so much for stopping by. Enjoy your day, but most of all, remember, always be creative every day and in everything that you do. I'll talk to you in the next video, and until then, take care and stay safe.